I could be ox. Okay. All right. I'm bending the metal. Oh, it went.
Hello. Oh, hi.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking apart bull barrel 1911s. I know that sounds so fun. So what I've got with me today is a Springfield Champion operator, which is a 4.25, I think, inch barrel. And then I've got the Springfield TRP, which is a hair over 5 inches on that barrel. Now, the difference between these two, besides the barrel length itself, is the guide rods are very different. So the little 4-inch or 4.2-inch Champion operator, that one has a dual recoil spring and guide rod setup. The full-size TRP full rail has a normal single spring for the 1911 with your standard guide rod. The issue with taking apart bull-barreled guns is their setup is much different than the normal 1911. Like if you remember watching the video for the Springfield MC operator, you have a bushing that goes around the barrel, and that actually locks into a plug that holds the spring down. When you have a bull-barreled 1911, there is no bushing anymore that's holding down any springs. So these springs on both these firearms are what's called non-captured springs. So in essence, if I took apart the gun without using any tools to hold the spring in place, those springs would go flying, and it would be very, very hard to put that guide rod and spring setup back together and back into the gun. So today we're going to go over these two. I'm going to talk about how real the struggle is for finding the right tools to take these apart. It's quite interesting working at a gun range and seeing a lot of the different 1911 manufacturers, and you know, all the little gadgets that they give you. For instance, Glock, they'll give you a speed loader in their box with the gun, but in my personal opinion, that speed loader is one of the worst things out there on the market. But it's nice that they give it to you. You know, you've got Kimber that will, with their bull barrels, Kimber will give you a takedown tool for their captured spring setup, which looks very similar to this paper clip, and it's about as thin. So yes, it can break. Yes, it can wear out. It's not that great. So that's not pleased with that. Oddly enough, so when I got my TRP full rail, they gave me a takedown tool. It looks like this, a little L shape. I'll tell you right now, it actually doesn't fit. It doesn't fit inside the dust cover. It doesn't fit into the hole that it belongs in order to capture that spring for the guide rod. I don't know what they were thinking with this, and there's really, sadly, no way for me to alter this to actually make it work. So what I personally ended up doing with the TRP full rail, because I am not quite ready to drop $70 on the Dawson Precision toolless guide rod for that particular gun, I ended up taking apart a fridge magnet and clip. And what I did was I used the metal spring that it came with, and I had to manufacture a very sharp 90-degree angle for this. So this hook, in essence, this hook is actually what's going to lock into the guide rod itself, hold down the spring, so I can then take apart the TRP full rail. Now, the only positive thing out of all these tools that are, given to you or part of a sale for manufacturers is for my Champion operator, my little baby guy, my 4-inch Springfield. I bought these right here. This is STI's takedown tool for a lot of their 1911s that have bull barrels. And the kit, it came with, I think it was 4 or 5 of these in different sizes. But I tell you what, this has been flawless with taking apart my 1911 with a bull barrel. So now here's the thing, this will not work on the TRP full rail or anything like that. It has to be on a 1911 whose guide rod at the end has a notch sitting right there. It has a bulbous front end, right? But when you look at the guide rod for the TRP full rail, you got nothing in the end. It is all the same size. It goes straight up and down, and that is it. So with this TRP, or I'm sorry, with this STI takedown tool, you can see inside the design, there is a rod shape right here, and then the bulbous top end that it locks into. So this has been extremely helpful with taking apart my Champion operator. Okay, so let's get into taking apart both of these. I will go with this small guy first, then we'll go into the TRP, and I'll get to show you the differences between those guide rods. So, first thing we do, as always with all of our videos, we're going to lock back the slide, check to make sure that the chamber is unloaded. There is nothing in the action over here, and I also have removed the magazines. So there is no round anywhere in this gun. There are no rounds, no magazine, no nothing. So now that the firearm is locked back, it is time to put on that STI takedown tool. Like I said, it's the same shape as the guide rod here. So all I am doing is I am placing that guide rod tool right there inside, and I can use something to kind of push and lock it into place. And I'm trying to listen for clicks. I heard one click there, and there's the second click right there. So now that that tool is in place, I can release the tension from the slide lock there, push forward to the notch that I need to remove the slide lock lever here. There we go. Knock it out on the other side, and once that part is out, I can remove the slide from the frame. From here, my guide rod and guide rod spring, and this will give you a very close-up look of what it looks like for the tool to be holding on to the guide rod. See that there? And it's kind of hard to see, but if you zoom in, I'll use a little pointer here. You see a very large spring sitting right here, and then there's actually a smaller spring that is inside. It goes to about here, and then a larger spring goes and fills in the rest. So this is a dual recoil spring right here on this one. So once that guide rod and guide rod spring are taken out, the barrel does come out the front end. Now you notice from the difference from the other video from before, I didn't have to remove a bushing, I didn't have to remove a plunger. There are less pieces when it comes to a bull barrel 1911. It just sometimes is a hell of a lot harder to take apart. So those are that's the give and take with these types of 1911s. So putting it back together, the same thing. This barrel is going right through the front end of the slide, just like that, till it locks into place. Again, no bushing that I have to put on or anything like that. I have to lift that little guy up there so I can then place the guide rod and guide rod spring back into its spot and lift up that notch just so it sits flush and straight right there. I always like grabbing with my thumb, locking everything into place as I place the slide back onto the barrel. Push everything back till it locks there. Slide release lever is going to go back into its home. And as much as I can, I always will use a tool just to make sure I don't make any marks on the slide or the frame. Make sure it goes right into place. I can then pull back all the way on the slide, creating the tension again on the spring. I can pull down on that release tool, and as I slowly go forward, the tool comes right out. Very, very easy. I'm very grateful that STI has created this tool it has been a lifesaver when it comes to taking this little guy apart. Absolutely love it. So now, let's talk about the full rail TRP. It's tough. This is not user-friendly, really. It's a sad reality. One of the major things that gets me is the fact that I have to stick a tool inside a hole which is covered by a full-length dust cover. So one, it's already hard to manipulate a tool into that spot. But the second part is they made the holes horizontal, right? So the holes, in essence, the holes are sitting right here, right where this chunk of metal from the dust cover is actually blocking my access to that hole. If they could only angle the hole up just a little bit, maybe at a 45-degree angle coming out in a direction like this, then I can easily take a tool, place it right in there, and be done. But I had to make this tool and create it in such a way where the 90-degree bend was short enough to fit in between where the guide rod and the dust cover sit, still long enough to be able to hold the spring in place and make sure that the tension is not going to throw this piece out of the dust cover, and have to make it also thick enough, the metal has to be thick enough to fill most of that hole, because when I tried using a small paper clip like this, very thin metal, the spring housing actually was pushing too far forward, so I couldn't remove the spring and guide rod through the backside of the slide when I take it all apart. I wasn't able to actually lift that up and out because the spring was still set too far forward. So I had to go with something that was very thick in order to do so. So I finally was able to create this, and you can see up close, it's a very sharp 90-degree angle. It really is just hooking into where that hole is, and you can see it sitting in there just like that. So what I have to do is hold on to the slide with my right hand. I'm going to place and keep the locking tool held in place where that hole is, and then I'm going to pull back a little bit on the slide and slowly release so it finally locks onto the tool and keeps it into place. I can't just let go of the tool beforehand because it will fall out. So now that I have that in place, I have to line up my slide lock lever so I can actually take that out. There's that. And then I can slide the slide off the frame forward, of the frame sitting there. But you can see again, look how long this dust cover is. This is huge. I mean, my other one, my little guy, stops about here. So you've got all this extra going on that's actually covering that hole there. And I'll show you. Put everything kind of back here. All right, I'll take this right out. There we go. And you'll see this is the way that it has to sit, because this U shape right here actually has to sit on the barrel. So this is how it has to sit. And you can see the tool is going horizontal completely. And like I was talking about when the gun was put together, if only it was turned just a little bit like this, I would have much easier access in between the barrel and the dust cover to actually find that hole, place a tool there, leave it there, and be able to do all this same stuff without having to spend. I spent an hour manipulating this little piece of metal just so I can get it to fit into the hole and stay with the proper tension on this spring to be able to take the gun apart. So definitely a struggle with bull barrel 1911s. So once the guide rod and guide rod spring are out, I can then of course remove the barrel forward and out from the front of the slide, just like so. And if you keep hearing me say bull barrel, what I mean by that is that's what this is called, a bull barrel right here. It's a very thick, very thick 1911 barrel. Most 1911 barrels are probably about half that width. And again, that's how a bushing is allowed to go over that and lock into the front of the 1911. A bull barrel, again, no bushing, and you can see that it actually will sit, and both of these do it, when they sit and they stick out just a little bit from the rest of the slide right there. So they do not sit flush with the slide itself. Now that the barrel's back in, with my tool that I made, right, and this spring setup, I can actually go ahead and place this and guide it through so it sits in the correct spot. Again, making sure everything fits and fits nice, good. And again, slide going over on top of the frame. And I'm pushing everything back. You notice my thumb is just kind of holding onto that spring just so nothing goes out of place. That I don't have to worry about anything like that. And then the slide lock. There we go. Get it to the right spot. And again, like I said, as always, I'm using a tool. A tool pushing down so I can get it in its hole without any issues. Lock back, tool falls out, and we are good to go. Again, if you get a bull barrel 1911, just really understand what you're getting yourself into. It's not like it's the end of the world, truly. Bull barrels are really great 1911s to shoot. I love the fact that they're heavier on the front end. They've got a very heavy nose, a very stable front end. So when I'm shooting, especially when I'm shooting my little guy, this Champion Operator, this is a half aluminum, half steel 1911, right? This TRP 4 rail, this whole thing is just steel all day, right? So even with this nice light version, a light frame, heavy slide, because of the bull barrel, because of the top end weight and the front end weight, as I'm firing that gun, that recoil resets right back onto target every single time. It really is phenomenal shooting bull barrel 1911s. I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.